Are you glad that you were married to a reprobate? Probably not. Would you do it again? Probably not. But at the same time, can you look back now and go, look at what I gained because of that part of my life? Am I glad for that? Yes, I am. And I think that that's really what it boils down to here, is like, with all of life's experiences, what are you making with it? Are you taking these setbacks, these obstacles, and now that you've made it through, made it over, made it, around, whatever, are you helping somebody else getting there? Or are you just standing there going, haha, good luck, a-hole, right? What good is that going to do anybody? It's like, stick your hand down there and lift them up. Don't be such a wiener. You were given this for a reason. Now you're standing here on higher ground. It's like, lift them out of that muck, or at least show them the way, do something, right?
Welcome to the Fifi Uncensored podcast, season 3, episode 25, part 1, with my guest Kory Koontz, as we sit down and talk about the choices we make. And our life experiences that we share are quite something. It's 2 parts because there's more where that came from. So grab your coffee, grab your cannoli, because here we go. So I want to welcome you, Kory Koontz, to the Fifi Uncensored podcast, and thank you for being my guest today and taking the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation and connect over many things I want to talk with you about and ask you about and highlight you about, and start with you and I connected in 2008 through a financial program that you became my husband and my coach. And through that journey, became friends, and we've been friends ever since. And so that's now about 15 years. Amazing. Incredible. And we ended up, which always humors me, as you know, becoming awarded for our financial, I don't know what we did, frankly. And I always make the running joke, as you know, because it's not meant to be anything but like when we were being awarded that Christmas in Utah, in Salt Lake. I had never been, Randy had never been. And being that Salt Lake is not in a general statement, because God knows it's, diversified. But I had actually never been to Salt Lake. I had friends who were Mormon. But I told you, I made the running joke, what are they going to say when the Black and the Jew walk up to the front of the ballroom to accept the award? Is going to drop their Coca-Cola. And I mean that with love, and you know that. And but what you and I have created over the years has been a really beautiful. We don't get to talk to each other a lot, but when we talk, we have these really heartfelt conversations that are really like where we're both seen, we're both heard, we're both understood, and that's what I think resonated with me, with you from the very beginning, which was somebody who really cares and leads with your heart. And I just want to say that's why I wanted to have you on, because it's really interesting for all sorts of reasons. As we both know, life is not a straight line. And there's a lot to this journey we call life. And you're originally a California boy, right?
I am. I grew up in Tustin. And I'm a cast member, former cast member from Disneyland. I mean, you can't get more Californian than that. I was actually a tour guide at Universal Studios once upon a time, too. So.
Did you know that Randy headed up the Universal Studio tour guides?
No.
And ran that whole backlot?
No, had no idea.
What years were you there?
90, 91, 92.
Okay, that's so crazy. He had literally just left. I think he had literally, or he was on the precipice.
No, it was 90, 91 because Alyssa Kirsten, she was just a year old. 89, I'm going backwards now. 89, 90.
Okay, you know what? This is crazy. This is really crazy because I don't exactly remember the year, but Randy might have been there at the very same time.
How fun.
How nutty is that? So he was a tour guide. He came from Texas to not have responsibilities, got that position just as a tour guide. And I don't know, it was within a year or so they were bumping him up to the head of it all. And he was there until he got into his camera work and film and television. How nuts.
That's supposed to be the way that it works out. In fact, I was offered a job on the back lot, but because I was a new dad and the pay was like nothing. I mean, we're talking what for back then, $8, $10 an hour. I couldn't,
Mhm.
I couldn't support a family on that. So I took a job instead waiting tables at Victoria Station on the hill.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Just what a small world. I cannot wait to tell him. So from that point forward, how much time between then and your move to Salt Lake?
I went through the divorce in 1992, and that's what caused my move to Salt Lake City.
Okay. And you know what? I don't even know that I remember that you were married before your current marriage.
Yeah.
So,
So I was married once, had two kids. I just want to say it didn't work out.
mhm,
And I moved up here.
mhm,
I was an emotional mess, but I moved up here because I had family up here to help me kind of put my life back together.
mhm.
And then within 2 years of being up here, that's when I could say I re-met Colleen. I had known her from college. We actually did a play together back at BYU years, I mean, before I was married the first time. And so after my divorce, I happened to go back and I just happened, I don't believe in accidents, right? And I
Yeah.
happened to sit in on a student production and it was hers. And I'm like, I know her. What is she still doing here? Because I graduated 6 years previously. And I'm like, why is she still here? And then one thing led to another. And 2 years later, we're getting married.
Isn't that amazing? And you're right. I don't believe in accidents either, but I also believe that, I mean, I always use this kind of reference to the galaxy of we're just these planets shooting across the universe. But there's certain ones of us who are always supposed to connect or be connected in alignment with one another. And I think that's fascinating, even as we're evolving. It's interesting. I want to go back for a moment before we go forward and ask you about little Kory growing up in Tustin. And what was little Kory dreaming of as a little boy, and what resonated, and who do you think you want to become and imagined, dreamed of becoming back then?
Oh, back then I wanted to be a child actor. I wanted to be one of these, it's like I saw myself as part of the Brady Bunch. It's like I was the bastard kid that, that he had with somebody else. Because I was this little blonde-haired, green-eyed, just damn, I was a cute kid.
Oh, I bet. No doubt. No doubt. And growing up, in and around this area, I could see how, besides the fact that it was, the 70s, right? You were growing up. I imagine that you're talking about and just the relatedness of it. I love that you say a bastard child when it was already a divorced couple married with their own children, but like out of wedlock, they would have had another child. So you would have been the bastard child, so to speak.
Because I look more like the mother, here I'm the blonde, I look like the sisters, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like the dad, so.
That's so funny. And I do, you see, as visual as I am, never did I even think about that, because I just, I know there were blondes in the family, but I never thought about that the boys were all brunettes. So
Yeah.
that's funny that that's where your head went. So you wanted to be a child actor and you worked at Disney, but before you got to Disney, because I would think you would have had to have at least been 16 or older when you started there, yeah?
I think I was 17.
Okay. So between the little boy, let's say under the age of 7 years old, imagining, or under 10, I feel like the pure imagination is somewhere between 3 to 10 years of age before it really gets mucked up by the world as we know it and the influences around us. Did you actually perform in school? Were you doing theater in school? What were you getting to express yourself in those ways?
Until I hit 8th grade, I was in a different school every year. And that's
because why?
Because, let's see, how do I put this nicely? We moved a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, after my parents split up when I was 7,
Mm-hmm.
it seemed like I was in a different school every year, and then my mother remarried, and then I was in a different school every year, and I just moved a lot. And so it wasn't until I hit 8th grade that I hit stable roots in Tustin. So.
And was it with your mom and her second husband that you had stable roots at that point when that thing settled, or was other circumstances at that point?
I want to just say more with my mother. My stepdad, let's just say it wasn't a good experience for either of us. How's that?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The reason why I ask these questions of my guests is because I think it has so much to do with how we as human beings formulate and how we get triggered in the world, or how we succeed in the world, or how our path gets programmed in the world, and how we do or don't work through those things in the world and the impressions it leaves. And I think, one of the many reasons why I love doing this platform is the ability to have really authentic conversations if people are willing. And it's not about trying to pull back your own curtain. I think that it helps people understand that they're not alone.
Yeah.
And a relatableness. And also, more importantly, the ability to succeed through all the shit, sometimes shit that we have no control over. And as children, we're pretty much not in control of our environments, right?
Yeah.
And then what we get exposed to, whether it's unhealthy behaviors from adults, quote unquote, be it abuse, addiction, be it maybe being in the military, whatever. But I find it's interesting that you said about moving a lot, because one of the things that, and not all, by the way, but as a professional in the entertainment industry that I've been a part of for over 30 years, one of my observations about many performers is many come from, not all, like I said before, homes where they moved a lot, or there was addiction in the family history, or they were in the military, something of that nature, which allows for them to get into these other characters and recreate their who they show up being.
Right.
And so that's why I asked you, because there's nothing right or wrong about it. It's just, I think it's an interesting study in human capability.
I was a pretty messed up kid.
Fair enough.
And I was I was bullied a lot. And I mean, I don't have a lot of good memories of growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my my formative years were, I don't know. I mean, I went through a lot of abuse,
Mm-hmm.
verbal, physical, by both my father and my stepfather, and I just don't have many happy childhood memories. It wasn't until high school that I actually started to, be in one place and have a core of certain friends, and that I kindly finally felt accepted. But even the theater program at my high school, I didn't like. And I never really got into it deeply because I just didn't care for the stuff that they did. So I was kind of like the oddball. I mean, I was always wanted to be one of the popular kids, but never quite made that transition. And more of always on the outside looking in. One of the things that happened is I was voted most gullible as a senior because I was just so trusting, and people would, tell me the sky is green, and I'd be like, in order to be accepted, I would accept it. I'd believe it. So
Do you think it was acceptance or that you wanted to be accepted?
I wanted to be accepted.
Yeah. And it's interesting. As somebody who works with a lot of healers, meaning myself, you would probably find it fascinating that a lot of healers actually feel very much like outsiders in the realms that they're a part of. And the reason why I share that with you is you are a human being in my heart who has a very healing like soul capabilities, and probably are, whether you know it or not, are a healer, whether you practice it or not. But we practice healing in a lot of different forms.
Hmm.
You don't have to have doctor in front of your name. You don't have to have a PhD in front, behind your name, or you don't have to be a channeler or a mediumship or an intuitive or practiced of those to actually have that in you or identify it. But I say that because it's unfortunate that an innocent, pure soul like yourself, as many are, by the way, come into this world, whether by choice or whether to work out things from another lifetime or whatever your belief systems are, and then get exposed to environments that aren't healthy or safe, and that you're the source of what people can then take advantage of, and then how you manage through that all. But in order to manage through that all, as painful as that can be, the fact that you did and have, and nobody at the end of the day crushed that beautiful soul within you, even though maybe at many times it felt soul crushing, I want to applaud you for, because it takes a greater, strong spirit to endure through that.
I'm It's interesting that you would choose the word endure, because with my belief system, part of it is endure to the end, but it doesn't mean that life has to be miserable.
Mm,
It's just looking back on my life, I'm thinking I've had a lot of misery, and it is what it is, right? Doesn't make it right or wrong, doesn't make it fair or unjust. It's just I've had a lot of misery in my life. And I think the one thing that I've learned is happiness truly is a choice. And I have chosen, for the most part, to strive to be happy, even in the face of all the muck and the adversity and having to endure and what have you. And there'll be times that I'll just ask myself, Kory, are you happy? And if the answer is like, no, I'm miserable, it's like, well, then shift, you know, shift, make a physical shift. move from here to here. And when I was after doing financial coaching, I actually did life coaching and miracles coaching for Joe Vitale. And that was one of the things that I would teach people. It's like, if you don't like the paradigm that you're in or the energy space that you're in, shift physically, get up and move, go somewhere else, shift that energy. Because if you're in a negative vortex, it just begets more negativity. And all
Mhm.
you've got to do is make a physical shift to get out of it. And if people are throwing negativity your way, all you got to do is be like, no, thank you, and step aside and let them throw it at let them throw it at a wall or whatever. So one of the things that I try and practice, and not successfully all the time, but if I am in a negative headspace, it's like, make that shift, because I can choose to be happy no matter what the circumstance. Now, like I said, I'm not always successful. I have had some really big bouts of misery. One of the things that I could say, one of the trials that I've been given in life is I have extreme anxiety disorder.
Mhm.
And for many, many years, the doctor said, "Oh, you're bipolar level 2, not, level 1, which is huge, but just level 2 extreme mood swings." And I finally went to a psychiatrist and she did all of these tests and she's like, "You are not bipolar. There is no manic in you.
Mhm.
You might have some depression here, but manic people do this and this and this, which you don't do."
Mhm.
Okay. There's no
Mhm.
manic there. So that's not it. So after, discussing with me, we must have talked for a couple of hours. She says, "According to all the information I have, this is how I'm going to diagnose you. And it's extreme anxiety." And looking back now, that completely makes sense. And yeah, there is a touch of depression in there because of what I've dealt with in my life. But I think my depression is more situational. But I
Mhm.
think the anxiety really is clinical. And unfortunately, it's like I passed it on to all of my kids. And there was a show that I never saw made, but I saw something on the internet, and it was called Nuts, I think, and or something like that. And I thought, oh my gosh, my family would be perfect for this, bec- because of all the things that we go through. And
Mhm.
I can't share for them what
Mhm.
their specific trials are, but we all have issues. So that my wife has things that she has to deal with, and of course I do, and then you take those two and you mix them together, and you've got three kids that are like, "Thanks a lot, mom and dad."
Yeah,
Thanks,
of
thank
course.
you so much.
Thank you for the gift.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for these gifts. Yeah, thank you so much. Like, you're welcome.
It's our pleasure, children.
Yeah, yeah,
Love you so much.
yeah,
No, and
exactly.
those are the things again that, good for you though. I applaud you for doing your own archaeological dig and getting the source of help that you kept. I mean, even after doing, people like the Joe Vitales of the world, who like are really sought after kind of, leaders in their world of self-help world that people may or may not know about, is just the kind of people that, um, you know, doesn't it's I mean, I'm not going to claim to know all this, but I know plenty of people who have done their, the trainings and coaching. And I think that you being willing to go deep, that a lot of people aren't willing to do that, Kory. A lot of people don't want to know. A lot of people would rather continue to throw their dysfunction out into the world and affect other people negatively, like we were just kind of leaning into, versus stop, look, and listen, like Dick and Jane, and, take accountability for what part they are, is going on within. So you can come from a place of a healthier place, so that when then you are in the midst of your environments, you can contribute from a positive position.
Right.
And I find that sadly, a lot of people just don't want to do the work, and because it takes a great deal of courage and vulnerability and aligning and finding the right people to do that work with. And it takes a lot of effort. And, and I just, again, I applaud you because that, and that's, again, probably very much why unconsciously or consciously, outside of the initial program that, connected us, why you and I continue to resonate with one another, because I believe in doing the work. It's not about doing work perfectly. It's not about doing work like, woohoo, look at me, I did the work, I'm on top of the mountain, blah, blah, blah. No, the bottom line is you're a human being that wants for better, that consciously knows that there's answers to these things. And you're a smart human being. You're a very smart man. And that I've never thought of you as not wanting to be accountable or, responsible, whether for yourself or others or both. And then hearing a little bit about, what you came up in, I should say, makes even more sense of the kind of father and the kind of husband and, just, or member of your church that you want to show up being, because I believe that our life experiences, if you didn't have those life experiences, you wouldn't be the empathetic human being that you are.
I thank you for that. I just wanted to add that the experiences that I want to say have been given, because I look back on everything and think, do I regret anything? Well, I'm sure we all have regrets. Would I have liked to have done things differently? Of course. But looking at what I've gone through, would I go through it all again? Absolutely, because of what I've learned. And having made it to the other side at times, it really has put me in a position where I can be a healer or a help to other people. And so I think with any trial that we've been given in life, my personal belief is God gives us these trials, not only one, to make us stronger, but number two, so that we can be his emissaries here on the earth to help other people get through it. It's like, I have been there. I have done that. I survived. You can too, and let me love you through this. Let me just give you that love and support that you need at this time. And I'm finding that has been one of my greatest gifts is empathy that God has given me because of trials that I guess I should say I've been allowed to pass through. And the things that, I've been given in life and the choices that I've made with those things that I've been given, I can say for the most part, I like who I am. I mean, not always. I don't like some of the choices that I've made. I look back and I think, oh, you're still an idiot. When are you going to learn? You've been to the school of hard knocks how many times now? When are you going to graduate? When are you going to learn this lesson? Because if we don't learn from history, we are destined to repeat it. And I can't tell you how many times that I've repeated something again and again. It's like, okay, have you had enough yet? Have you had enough yet? I guess not. Let's go through this again.
So. I love this conversation, though. I love it so much because, very much as we started out the beginning of this conversation, you were asking me how I'm doing post coming through cancer. And I shared with you that I had no idea there was a post-cancer journey called You Wake Up and Go, excuse my wording, what the fuck was that? Excuse me, but what was that? Yes. Nobody talks about it. As I shared with you, nobody talks about it. Why? I don't know. But the whole journey, I don't know why they don't talk about all the ins and outs. My point to it is not the woe me, because I'm one of millions of people who go through this, and in my going through this and my waking up and pulling back the layers and pulling back the layers, and every day right now is pulling back layers, and being somebody who, it doesn't matter that I was pre-med, but always has naturally been a healer. I was always the little girl that people came to tell me all their issues, and I would help them solve their problems. And there was no conscious reason why that was happening. Like well, I was a popular kid, but I did always feel like an outsider. And part of the outsider part was because I was made to feel um, consciously unconscious that I was out of place because I carried extra weight on my body. So therefore, something's wrong with you. Had nothing to do with how smart I was, how talented I was as an artist or musician or performer or anything. Now, there's still something wrong with you because you're a little overweight, So therefore, we're going to make you feel out of place, even though it had nothing to do with you coming up with this conclusion. It was everybody else putting their shit. So it's another form of that learned, like, barnacles on the boat is what I call it. And like you said, and I was having this interview ironically with my producers for the podcast. They happen to both be 29 years old, my producers, females on the East Coast. What's so cool about our relationship is I got to say to them when I was 29, and though I had already lived a lot of life because of the childhood and the environment I was raised in and the time of life and things that were going on environmentally and politically and everything, as well as within the household. At 29, I was young and married and educated and had my own photo studio and working in editorial and doing my first movies and commercials and all these things. And the hormones were coming in and going, I'm ready to have a baby. And there's no damn way I would have had a baby before because I didn't want to ruin my education and I wouldn't have been ready and whatever. Little did I know at 29 what I was about to, in the next decade, experience in my life, let alone coming forward to even today. And I said, you cannot know, you cannot be prepared for what life is going to present, no matter how well prepared, no matter how much money, no matter how well educated, no matter where you live in the world, life happens. And I said, I didn't know I was going to go through divorce. I did not know I was going to go through domestic violence. I did not know that I was going to get pregnant and have to be faced with abortions and miscarriages and medical terminations. I did not know I would be experiencing 2 different kinds of cancers. I did not know all these things that today is part of my woven fiber that, like we were just talking about, gives me the ability to hear and see people and understand people that I would never have had the level of empathy that I have today had it not been going through those things. And did I ask for those things like you? No. Would I want to do it again? Well, frankly, no, I would not like to. I would not wish it on anybody, that whether I like them or not. My point is though, what gives, and part of the reason why this podcast was launched, and I wanted to launch it many, many years back, until I heard my voice and was like, oh God, no, who wants to hear that? And thankfully, thank you. But thankfully, during the pandemic, aligning with my producers, unbeknownst to me, and them both saying, oh my God, of all people, you need to have this podcast. Why? Because you have all these life experiences, because there are the conversations of any kind that you can have and have the empathy, and therefore gather around the campfire and make people feel at ease to open up their hearts and open up their ability to share because they feel safe, because you are who you are. So, it is fascinating because, being somebody who's had a lot of life experience as you have, and coming forward to where you are now, now you've been now you and Colleen have been married for, I don't know, how many years have you two been married now?
It's 29 in September.
29. I mean, that is something to celebrate. That is a lifetime in and of itself. Ironically, 29. There's that number.
Yeah. I don't know if she would celebrate it as much as I do, but
Yeah, but I think
Be
that
like 29 years of trial. Thank you for that.
but it is trial, and that's what people don't know. You know, people, I mean, people look at Randy and me and all the time. I was like, if I told you how many times people are like, oh my God, you know, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I do feel fortunate. I really do, because I was married before, and I was with that man for 7 years of my life. And then I left that marriage because I thought, God, I'm 30 years old and I mean, if sitting on a couch and not striving for my dreams is going to be like the cumulative of my existence, when I know I'm married a talented man, but why am I wearing the pants in this relationship? And all the things when I'm trying to find myself and strive for my own greatness, this doesn't feel right. And what led me, and not to mention, and, you know, just to really pull back the curtain, I mean, it was like, you know, I had more people coming on to me in a very humble sort of way. And it was very confusing from a perspective of, yet the man I was with was like, you know, yeah, he'd hold my hand and yeah, he'd kiss me, but the intimacy was pretty lacking. And, you know, when you're 30 years of age, you're just like, and financially struggling, you start to go, well, why am I married to this? This cannot be my path.
Right.
And when I had the courage to leave, and, you know, he's a sweet enough person, but I know that had I stayed in that, I would have been in this very same position today as I was half a life ago. And unfortunately, I then walked into a relationship. I had no idea that I was walking into, that I was aligning with a violent alcoholic.
Oh.
And as I've said before, with my husband, I never got pregnant. We weren't even protected, and I never got pregnant. That tells you like the lack of intimacy. And I no sooner was aligned with this other person, I was no sooner pregnant. I actually started to think I couldn't get pregnant. And, you know, and then there I was starting to be abused when I was first pregnant. You know, I mean, being thrown down a flight of steps by my hair with my hydraulic chair behind me, like really shitty things, like really visually, like if you saw it in a movie, you wouldn't believe it. And that's the most I'm going to say to you about that detail. But I know just how you flinched. I'm lucky to be here. And I was protected, ironically, with birth control the whole time I was with this man, and still got pregnant 3 times. And had to make choices I never in a million years, Kory, knew that I would have to be faced with, because I was the only female I knew, and all my friends educated, that had never had to terminate a pregnancy. And I felt like I was faced with those realities because of the man I was dealing with, and that I did not want my children to be raised with that. And no matter how many times I tried to get away, that shit kept coming right back in my face with the threats and all the things that people go, well, why doesn't she just leave? And if it weren't for my going through it, I was one of those people. Well, why don't they just leave?
Yeah.
It's not like that. I can walk out my front door today safely and know that I can safely, and I don't have to be grabbing things and secretively doing things and all the things that in those formative years of being in that relationship, I had to do to survive in ways that I would not want to have anybody go through. And yet here we are living in a world, and that was in the 90s. So that was a long time ago. That today, with the pandemic and all the things, the violence behind closed doors has just risen. And this is stuff that, you know, we wonder why there are wars in the world. And this is not to be negative. We're just like getting real for a second or 2 or 3. That the reason why violence and wars, I think, are so emulated is it all starts behind closed doors in our own family units. Mm-hmm. And we don't get honest and real about that stuff and get to the bottom of it to stop it. And we keep passing it on generationally. And then we have innocence repeating this generational stuff. Anyhow, my point to that is going back to learned stuff. There are times, and I just had this conversation coming through cancer, where celebrating one's wins sometimes isn't as simple as one thinks because of the programming that they've been through. And there's always potentially a fear of when the other shoe's going to fall. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And if you've had enough of those moments, you really have to work hard at affirming the positive, to believe that you deserve, that you are capable, that you are the gift, that you are beholden for success. You are beholden for a successful marriage, a successful relationships, successful in anything you put your mind to. The journey is not meant for misery. The journey is meant for happiness. The journey is meant for success. God knows you are a human being who's got all the gifts. I know it without even knowing all your background. I just know it how you showed up in front of my face over the phone in 2008. I just knew it. That's why I said yes. Yeah. But I think I think we mirror each other that way. I think, for many other people, when it comes to myself, everybody thinks I'm the most competent. They think that, almost a threat. I've been told many times, oh, you're a threat. You talk too well. You show up looking too good. You carry yourself too well. You do. I'm sorry. Would you say that to your child? Oh, dim it down. Don't speak well. Don't be too smart. Don't show up well put together, because now you're going to be a threat to others. I mean, I would never in a million years. But yet, full on quote unquote adults, dysfunctional adults, have said that to me multiple times. And it's very like, what are you talking about?
It comes from their insecurities about themselves.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that was probably the main reason for my marriage, my first marriage, not working out, is because I didn't like me at all. I mean, I hated who I was and was not confident at all. And I mean, just looked in the mirror and couldn't stand the guy that was looking back. And the way that I dealt with it, even though I didn't know I was doing this, was that I would tear other people down in order to make myself feel better. And it wasn't until I hit that like, I guess you could say, that crossroad where everything blew up in my face. And my first wife said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. That I really had to take a step back and say, whoa, is this really who I am? Is this really what I've done? Is this really the way that I've treated you? And then it was a matter of, okay, I can fix this, because I want to fix me. I want to be a better human being. I tried to be the best husband and father that I knew how to be. I just wasn't good at it because I didn't know how. So now that I'm aware of these things, well, now I can make some changes and I can make some different choices. And I did, and I have. And I think that's why my second marriage has been successful. And I look at, okay, I wouldn't, like you said, I wouldn't wish my divorce upon anyone. I wouldn't wish a divorce upon anyone. That was the hardest thing that I've ever gone through. And I was miserable. And, but at the same time, it did allow me to seek out and make those changes that I needed to make in order to become a better human being. And looking back, now 30 years in the past, I can say, wow, had it not been for that being brought to my attention, say, I'm leaving you type of thing, maybe I'd still be in the same place. And I wouldn't have known that I wasn't a good guy, because I was the best human being that I knew how to be, considering the circumstances that I grew up with and the parenting that I had and the examples that I had from fathers and, things like that. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, my father and my stepfather were both extremely abusive. And, that's what you learn. It was a learned behavior. And so one of the things that I decided when I made that discovery was that this is a chain that I'm going to break. This is something that is going to come to an end because I will not pass on abuse to my children or have them grow up to be abusers. I want my children to know that their daddy loves them because I never felt love from
Mhm.
a male figure, which brings me to a whole other side of my life, right? That you
Mhm.
you personally know about, and maybe you'll bring it up a little bit as we're talking,
Mhm. Mhm.
but it's just I just knew that that was not the type of man that I wanted to be. And in order to not be that man, I had to make some changes, obviously for the better. And it's still a learning process.
Mhm.
I still look at myself and go, oh, stupid. Why'd you do that? But that's why I think in my personal beliefs is one of God's greatest gifts to us is a thing called repentance. And whether that's something that we've hurt someone else or we've offended God or or the universe, whatever it is, we can make amends. And that's something that I've always tried to do almost immediately. If I know that I've caused hurt, it hurts me to know that I've caused that, to know that I was the cause of causing someone else pain.
Mhm.
And I will try and immediately fix that. I mean, if I've said something in the store to a complete stranger, I will go out of my way to apologize. I'm so
Mhm.
sorry. That was an accident, or that wasn't me, or what have you. I totaled
Mhm.
my car on Valentine's Day, and it was completely my fault. And the lady that I hit was so angry. And so here, the airbag had gone off in my face, and I'm running out of my car to check on her. And I'm so sorry. Are you okay? I thought, it's like, why weren't you paying attention? Well, I was, but there was all these things going on, and I'm just so sorry. And she calmed down because she realized that I wasn't this monster that, did something intentional to her. But at the same time, although the airbag exploded on me, I don't think it touched me. I don't remember feeling it actually physically touch my face.
Mhm.
So weird stuff. But I think that because of what I've gone through, um, and the hurt that I have felt growing up, and the rejection that I felt by both my father and my stepfather, and the abuse and things like that, it's just helped me to realize I don't want to be that kind of a person.
Mhm.
I also don't want to be the kind that holds a grudge. So I've had people that have caused me to literally change careers because of what they've done to me. And I had a really hard time letting go when it happened. This happened back in about 2002. And in fact, it's what caused me to go into financial coaching. But I had, I was blackballed by a principal who was jealous of my success and basically ruined my life. And so I had a hard time forgiving her, and I'm just like, I hated her. I was so full of this anger and resentment and bitterness for what she had done to me. And I just thought, I don't like feeling like this.
Mhm.
So I asked God to take it from me. I'm like, I don't want to, I want to forgive her. But right now it's beyond me. And I remember just asking for that enough. And I feel like if you put it out there to the universe or to God or whatever your belief might be, if you put it out there and you're sincere in your devotion to have it, the universe is going to give it to you. And I woke up one day and it was the feeling of it was just gone. It was just completely gone. And I remember running into her in the store, and I had felt no animosity. I mean, I didn't want to be her best friend or anything, but I didn't sit there and go, "Oh, you witch, I wish you were dead," anything like that. I just, I didn't feel this anger and this animosity. So that's another lesson that it's taught me. It's like you don't have to hold on to these toxic feelings that are not going to do you any good. I mean, what good is it going to do the other? You're just like, so you hate someone else. What is, they don't care. It's not
No.
hurting them. It's going to hurt you. So if something like that hurt has caused something that is almost beyond you to let go of, I just say, it's like the 12-step program, let go and let God. It's like, here, I don't want this. You can have it, take it from me. Thank you. And it's just gratitude. Gratitude can change everything. So I try and look at everything that I've been through with a bit of gratitude. It's kind of like the Pollyanna. Well, what's the good news out of this? What's the happy side that you can see to this? Well, the good news out of my divorce is that I got Colleen, right? And 3 more beautiful children. And I learned not to be that angry, bitter, abusive man. And again, to make changes is just to be more self-aware and to make changes that are not only going to be beneficial to me, but to everyone else around me. And so throughout my life, that's something that I've really, really tried to personify is, number one, let go. Let go of resentment, let go of anger, just let go, let it go. And if I have people that I still do, I'll have people that come up to me and they'll say, well, you did this to me. And I'm like, how many years ago was that? Why are you still holding on to that? That doesn't hurt me at all. How many times do I have to apologize? Right. But I'm like, let it go. Just let it go. I think that with anything in life, if it is not beneficial to you, then why would you hold on to it? Why? It just, to me, it's beyond me. It's beyond belief. Why would you hold on to something that is not benefiting you or anyone else for that matter? It's a little bit of toxicity in your life. Let it go. So I've always tried to live by that. I do not hold on to grudges. I do not keep anger. I just don't. And that's something that I've tried to pass on to my kids. It's like, let it go. And if they don't, it's like, well, you're the one that you're hurting. You're only hurting yourself. So
I think
anyway,
it's such no. Like there's anyway, it's like that was like you just traveled through the West and you found the biggest golden nugget. Because it's such an important thing to hear, because I don't think of myself as holding on grudges, but I definitely see that there have been moments in time that there have been things that have occurred in my immediate experience where I could see how I've unconsciously carried forward things that never in a million years I would have ever thought I would have been capable of holding a grudge or being affected by somebody else's actions. And like you said, they're not sitting there going, oh yay, hurt Felicia.
yeah.
Yay me. And I'm still yay mean all these years later. On the contrary. And how has it benefited me? It's not benefited me. Matter of fact, on the contrary, it's can set you back. And for no matter how much I'm aware of, affirmations and how you show up being and how you can affirm, your mindset and mind, body, spirit, and all those things, I have no doubt that some of that, I mean, even ironically greater than, like, I don't hold a grudge towards my violator. Like, I just go, thank you for teaching me. Not because I would ever, like I said, no, never, ever. That was not a gift I was looking for. But my awareness and how I can show with people, oh no, that's a narcissistic sociopath. I would have never known what a narcissistic sociopath was had I not survived being with a narcissistic sociopath.
Right.
Now, did I want to be able to recognize those things? No.
But now you're in a position where you are actually a beacon to others, because you've gone through that. And I
Yeah.
think that's the way it is with all of my life's experiences. And you mentioned your producers being 29. I'm like, they've got a whole life to live.
It really, no, and it was so fascinating because as I was saying it to them, I was like, I want for them the very best. I mean, even as they're going to be producing this podcast, that was literally what was going through my head. And what was also really strange, and they'll laugh at this when they're producing this, my first abortion, going through abuse, was the year that they were born, the year I was supposed to birth my first children. And
Mhm.
I kind of gasped when this whole revelation during this interview was occurring. And I was like, oh my God, you literally could be my spirit babies. You
Yeah.
literally could be, and probably are, even though you have mothers who birthed you and all that. It would make perfect sense to me why you two are in my life. They are
Yeah.
best friends. One is mixed. One is fair and blonde hair. One is mixed with black and white. I'm like, everything makes total sense to me just in this moment of conversation. And I just love that you shared all that, Kory, because I know how devoted you are to, your practice, but I love how you have a much greater observation and acceptance of a greater plan or a greater source.
Purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because not all who are dedicated or committed to like one kind of practice has the
Hmm.
ability or chooses to see things from a greater umbrella kind of way, which can in turn make people not feel as included in a conversation or
Hmm.
seen or heard. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So it's like people, for me, the greater good that out there is I call him God. For
Mhm.
people that could just be the universe. Maybe
Mhm.
it's just energy. I mean, for whatever it is, the one thing that I guess I'd say chaps my hide is the denial of a higher being or a higher power. It's like, what, you think this just all created itself? You think that you're here by accident? You think that that no, you think that you've achieved this on your own? No, I'm sorry, no. You think that you've gone through what you've gone through? That no. Like I said, I don't believe in accidents, but I don't believe in fate either. I'm a firm believer in that life is what we make of it, that no matter what we go through, we have our greatest gift is the ability to choose what we will do with that situation, what we will do with that belief, what we will do with that particular experience. It's like, are we going to take that and make the world a better place, or are we going to take that and become bitter and embittered and emblazoned to make other people miserable?
Mhm.
Because, like I said earlier, that negative energy, it begets more. It's like a vortex. It's going to suck you in. Whereas positive is just the same thing. Positive begets positive. And I
Mhm.
choose to be positive. I choose to strive to be in a positive vortex and try and bring other people in. Now, does that mean other people can't bring me down? No. But if I've allowed them to, it's because I've allowed them to. Yeah, other people's choices can certainly bring us down and take advantage of us or can make us a mess or whatever. And but we can't blame them. You can't say, well, you made me this way. It's like, no, that's a cop out. You are choosing your reaction. If you don't like your reaction, choose differently. If you don't like the cards that you were dealt, well, then reshuffle the deck. It's your choice. That is the greatest thing that we have to do, is the ability to choose whatever we want. And so I look back and I say, would I have gone through this again? Well, if for the, I don't know, like you said, there are certain things that I wouldn't wish my divorce on anybody. Am I glad in retrospect that I went through it? Absolutely, because of what I learned. Are you glad that you were married to a reprobate? Probably not. Would you do it again? Probably not. But at the same time, can you look back now and go, look at what I gained because of that part of my life? Am I glad for that? Yes, I am. And I think that that's really what it boils down to here is like with all of life's experiences, what are you making with it? Are you taking these setbacks, these obstacles, and now that you've made it through, made it over, made it, around, whatever, are you helping somebody else getting there? Or are you just standing there going, haha, good luck, a-hole, right? What good is that going to do anybody? It's like stick your hand down there and lift them up. Don't be
Correct.
such a wiener. You were given this for a reason. Now you're standing here on higher ground. It's like lift them out of that muck, or at least show them the way, do something, right?
I cannot wait for you to join us next week with my continued conversation with Kory, as what we sit down, as I refer to as the meat of the potato of the conversation. So much more to be discussed. And I think you'll find it fascinating. It's interesting, and I love that we went there. So with that said, I will keep that in a little bit of a mystery for you to join us next week and hear where here on the Fifi Uncensored podcast, we discuss everything from soup to nuts, or what we like to say, from cannolis, egg, and the holes. And don't forget the s'mores, because it's here where the spirit is young, the soul is wise, and the life experiences are vast. And my conversation with Kory is a perfect example of that. So join us for part 2 next week. In the meantime, share, subscribe, and be a part of the Fifi Uncensored community, and join all of our friends as we continue to grow this beautiful community. Much love. Bye for now. Join us next week. Have a great week.